What were those 90 days like for you of figuring out where you were going to go and what you were going to do?
It was definitely like when I it first happened, like I said, full blown panic. But I knew that one of the steps in buying the house, whenever I'd bought houses previously, it had been either like for when I lived with a family member or for the guy I was dating at the time or whatever. I'd never bought a house for me.
Mm.
And this was, the first step in buying something for me, buying a home for me. And then I kind of wanted to just be like, okay, well, I made that step. Now the decisions I make going forward, especially now having been released, I need to start making choices for me. I need to start being selfish a little bit. And because I loved, helping. I wanted to take care of my family, now that I was financially able to, when I was with WWE. And I did a lot of that, but I didn't focus on myself a whole lot. And so that's pretty much what I spent the next 90 days doing is building a life for me for when I wasn't involved in wrestling in some capacity.
What does that look like? Like, what does that mean of like, what do you want at like the core of you as you're kind of discovering this and peeling away all those layers of things you're doing for other people versus the stuff that you actually want?
The horses was definitely a huge start. Is like, that's not for anybody but me, because that's my love right there. Those horses are just incredible. And then I've got, my crazy other two. I've got my corgi Barney, my Shar-Pei Hoovie, and then I have my little girl Bambi here, who is in my lap 24/7. So yeah, I got a little freak show going on over here, but they're amazing. And building this farm, which was never a lifestyle that I had anticipated liking. I fully blame Sarah for it.
She's done it. How did she coerce you?
She's done it to the whole squad. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
She did it to Liv, and then she did it to me. Like, she's done it to all of us, where she's convinced us that this was, an amazing lifestyle. And it really is.
Yeah.
We all three have very different farms, very, very different farms, but farms nonetheless. And it's so peaceful out here. And it's just, like I said, I don't hear traffic. I don't hear anything, because I'm so secluded. And I am, I go over to her house and we work out together, and it's just a lot of like, okay, I want this, so I'm going to do it. Not like, I want this, but I have to do this for this, or this for this person, or I have to make sure this person's good, whatever. It's just like, I want this, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get it. And so I remodeled my house. I did a lot of painting. Like I said, remodeled the barn, and I was just like, I wanted this all to be like perfect for when I came back. And then of course I had to kind of have a hard reset on the wrestler side of me, where I'm like, okay, now it's time to build my brand, not somebody else's brand, my brand. And what does that look like? And I think that I have really found who I am and who I've wanted to present myself as, for the first time. Because when I was on the indies, I don't think I really knew much of who I was.
Sure.
And I was trying to to concede to who somebody else wanted me to be in my previous job. So now this is the first time that I can really be like, okay, this is who I want to present. This is who I am. And it feels great. It feels amazing.
What did like those vision boards I'll use, whether they were physical or just like what you were thinking about of who Ruby Soho is, like, what were you looking at? What were some of the inspiration you were drawing from, or like the things that you felt were most important to you and to your character?
Yeah. I think Rancid was the perfect beginning, like the perfect seed to be planted. When I went on Lars's podcast and he bestowed upon me Rudy Soho.
That's huge. Like,
yeah, I want to throw up, like, when I was on camera, so I couldn't. But like, it was insane. Like, first of all, it's crazy to be able to call like somebody who I've considered like a hero, my friend. So that's, first of all, that's nuts. And secondly, I wasn't going to do any other really interviews during that 90-day time. I just kind of wanted to stay quiet and just like do a hard reset. But when Lars Fredrickson asked you to do his podcast, we're going to do his podcast.
Yeah, hop
on. So we did that, and we were talking about, what my next name was going to be. I didn't really like Heidi Loveless because it was given to me and it was never pronounced correctly. And it sounded like a porn star name. I didn't like it. So I kind of like was like stuck, and I knew I wanted to stay with Ruby because Ruby just felt like me. When people would call me that, like I would respond, not just because I knew that was my wrestling name, but it felt like me. And I told him that, and he was just like, I was like, and I also got it from Ruby Soho. That was the inspiration when I first found the name. He was like, why don't you just go by that? And I was like, because I didn't know it was an option. And he was like, yeah, like we can get on the phone, we can start this process. I can talk to the guys and see what they feel about having you use the song. And I just like melted in my chair and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? Like it was insane. And it definitely like started that because it just was perfect to go back to kind of the roots of like my love for punk. Because Rancid was, one of the first bands that I listened to, one of the first punk bands I listened to. And so it was able to go back to my roots of like what I loved. And I was able to kind of pull from Heidi, where I had no shame in jamming out to my own entrance music. Whereas like my character in WWE was like too cool to jam out to, but now I'm air guitaring in the middle of the ring and like loving my entrance. Like I have no problem with it. I can just be free and like jam out just like I'm at a concert with the fans. So it's like stuff like that I wanted to keep. I wanted to be able to kind of just say how I felt without trying to adhere to, what somebody else wanted me to say or anything like that. I wanted to keep with like my gear has like little bits of Heidi Loveless with like the stitching and stuff like that. Like I was the rag doll. And so it was a lot of the stitching and stuff has that, and then has the one-legged thing. So like that I kept with like tradition. So I was able to, just like with the vignettes that I did, it was just like little homages to the versions of myself before to create like this like Frankenstein version of who I am now.